Anybody else got any questions? Come on, it's going to be a long hour if you don't have any questions.
I have a question. Did you go up to the ballroom and the courtroom?
Yes.
What did you think about that place?
I liked the ballroom.
Yes.
I really did. I felt a lot of really neat energy in there. The coat room I absolutely hated.
It's awful.
I absolutely hated that coat room. And I also didn't like up here where the little boy used to light the light. I absolutely, that room terrified me.
Which room is that?
It's up there. It's where the little boy used to send out the, yeah, he used to send out the candles to light back when this was actually lit by candles. Something in there absolutely terrified me, and it's full of insulation now, so you can't get in there. And even if you could, I wouldn't go.
Have you been to the clock tower?
Up where the,
Way up.
yeah, I actually I haven't been up that ladder, because at my age I'm not going to climb ladders. But the little room that's underneath the little clock tower thing, I actually like that room. It's a very peaceful feeling. I like it up there. But I like the ballroom, but the coat room, absolutely not. I hated the coat room. Can't explain what I hated about it. I just felt uneasy. I just felt unwelcome. I just felt an apprehension the entire time I was in there.
Any certain spot?
I'm sorry?
Any certain spot in that room?
I am the coat room over by the window.
Yeah, everybody is.
Yeah, over by the window. I can't tell you what was over by the window. I don't care what's over by the window. All I know is I walked into the room and I immediately looked at the window. I was like, I do not like that.
It's like a feeling of abject terror.
I walked over there and stood and I said, yep, I hate it here. Anybody else?
Yeah, what do you think would be the best way for people that are true gifted people and paranormal teams to cooperate? You know, I mean, there has to be, you know, what do you think would be the most efficient way for them to, like, work together without compromising each other's, like, techniques?
Probably the best thing to look for in an empath, I'm not going to even talk about psychics because I don't believe in psychics. That's just me personally. They would have to do something phenomenal to convince me that they even exist. So I'll just speak on empaths. Get someone that's down to earth, maybe not necessarily as staunch as I am, but because I happen to come across as confrontational. But that's because I want die-hard legitimacy in everything I do. So look for someone that's not going to show up at your events dressed like, for lack of a better word, something out of the carnival. And look for someone that is going to walk in with an open mind, but be skeptical enough that they're not going to be subject to what everyone else is feeling. Like if you watch the shows on TV and they've got all these psychics, the psychics are walking in and they're sweeping through and they're feeling everything, and it's like, oh please, what do you expect everyone else to do if you're going to do that? Suggestion is a powerful thing, and I use this as an example. On the radio many years ago, there was these DJs that had a record, and they played it backward, and you know they ran it backward, and they said, okay, everybody call in and tell us what you heard. Nobody called in. So they said, well, we're going to do this again, and this is what we think it says. They played it again, did it, spun backward, and they said, now you can hear it that time. It plainly says, save us, Satan. The phones lit up. Oh, we heard it that time. Well, of course you heard it. The DJs told you heard it. So suggestion is a very powerful thing. That's why it's best to get someone that doesn't know maybe the history of something, or even if they do, they can put that objectivity in there, just like I knew the history of this place, but I didn't walk upstairs to the catwalk and say, oh, I feel Elizabeth, she's here. She wants to talk to me, she wants to communicate with me. I didn't do that. The only thing I did was when my husband stepped on her doll, I was like, get off Elizabeth's doll. And then I reached down and I straightened her leg and I said, Elizabeth, I'm going to straighten your doll. Now before, I was going to touch the doll on the head, and I just felt like I shouldn't, so I didn't do it. But then when he stepped on her, I was like, Elizabeth, I'm straightening your doll, I straightened her leg out. But it wasn't like I said, okay, I'm going to wait here for Elizabeth to communicate with me and tell me what she wants. You don't want people like that, because people like that, whether or not there's anything, they're going to tell you there's something. Or they may even invent 2 or 3 other ghosts that aren't there. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question about
Yes,
the
I am.
ghost in your home.
I'm sorry?
The ghost in your home now,
Uh-huh.
and things, you've never learned anything about
Couldn't care less. Don't care who it is. Not interested in communicating with her?
No, I mean, not communicating with her about.
Oh, about her? No,
About
we think it's the wife of the man that we bought the house from. She didn't die in the house, but we think it might be her. But if it is her, she's a little bit too mischievous to be as old as she was, so we're not sure who it is.
Yeah, because the way you describe it sounds like a kid.
Right, it really does. It sounds like a child.
Yeah.
It does.
It's-
But we don't know the history of the house. I may look into it sometime and see if there was any kids that lived there at any time. But yeah, she does all kinds of things. One morning I got ready to go to work and my familiar, she seems to have a thing for my familiar. And that's not necessarily a good thing. We have one cat, Buddha. He'll sit and you'll see him do this. He'll do that. And we'll say, oh, you watching Eula? What's she doing? And then we have another one that he'll just sit and he'll just look, just like this.
My dog does it.
And you'll see his head crane forward, and I'll say, woo, what'd you see? And then he'll look at me like, nothing, and walk off. But my familiar, she hates her, or she plays a little too rough with her. All of a sudden, my familiar's name's Walloon, but I call her Pootie. And she's half bobcat. And she'll climb up the walls with those little legs, and she's going after something. And she'll run around the house and go crazy, and she's chasing something. And one time she skidded and slid butt first into the wall, and I was like, Eula, stop it! And then she just stopped, and Pootie just looked around like, what? And one morning I was getting ready to go to work. Pootie was sitting by the door, and she's my baby, 6 pounds of pure fury. Imagine me and a 6-pound cat. That's my familiar. And I looked at her and I said, Mommy loves you, baby, and walked out the door. Well, a little while later, I got a call from my husband saying, he calls her Little Bit. He said, you left Little Bit in Samuel's our son, in Samuel's bedroom. And I said, no, I didn't. He said, yeah, you did. You left her in there when you were in there checking your email this morning before work. I said, I didn't check my email this morning before work. I wasn't in there. And he said, well, she was screaming and throwing herself against the door to get out. He said, I had to open the door and let her out. I said, well, Eula must have put her in there. And then another time, she was in the bedroom again, locked her in the bedroom. He had to go rescue her from the bedroom.
I mean, things that you say, and things that just reminds me.
It does. It
Well,
sounds like a
or
child.
and, you know, and things like that. That's what.
Yeah, it sounds like something a child would do.
A child.
But what really is strange is unless the kid thought that my wallpaper was ugly, and it was really god-awful gaudy, but I have a thing for gaudiness, so I was going to use that wallpaper. That sounds like something an adult wouldn't like. Well, I don't want you changing my bathroom. So I don't know.
You just be mischievous and say, I'm going to hide this from her.
It could be,
Yeah.
or like the keys. She always hides my keys. Always, and my husband would be like, what'd you do with the keys? I didn't do anything with the keys. They were right here. I didn't touch them. And it was really funny when she locked him in the garage. I'm standing in the sink up to my elbows in dirty dishes, and I hear this pounding on the garage door, and I was like, oh, for God's sake. Just had to go let him out of the garage. And then he says to me, how'd the garage door get locked? I said, no. Anybody else got any questions?
What's your everyday job
My everyday job, I'm a secretary.
for?
I work for a software company. I'm a detail freak, type A personality, which probably is another reason that it's good to have me on investigations because I don't miss anything. I take in every detail around me. Typical anal type A secretary.
What's the creepiest thing that you have besides the baby curiosity?
Creepiest thing, the large, about this big, picture of Memento Mori that my husband bought us for our anniversary.
Yay.
Yeah, it's an old woman with a dead baby in her lap. And I put the picture online. He walked up to me in a thrift shop, and I had seen the picture, and I was like, oh, no way. Because the baby's eyes, you can tell that there's just something freaky wrong with that kid. And that even freaked me out. That's bad. I mean, when you can freak me out. I saw it, and I was like, nope. Well, I'm walking around with my mother, and all of a sudden, here comes hubby. Hey, honey, look what I found. I was like, put it away. Put it right back. I saw that, and it freaks me out. He's like, I think I'm going to get it. And I was like, all right. So he talked the guy down on the price because he's like, yeah, this is really creepy. Nobody else is going to buy it. The guy was like, yeah, you're right. Knocked off like half price. So it hangs in our living room. room. And yeah, I put the picture online because I was thinking the baby wasn't dead. I was thinking it was just like sick or freaky looking. So I had a poll on my Facebook page, like, is the baby dead? And one woman was like, look at the dress the woman's wearing. She's got a blanket spread out in her lap. The baby has been posed. Babies don't sit with their legs crossed and their arms propped up. So yeah, that's the creepiest thing I own.
Do you delete it or do you keep it on Facebook?
Oh no, I've got it on Facebook. It's in my albums on Facebook. The baby's coffin is as well. And people have had a fit about the baby's coffin. I've had people say to me, why on earth would you have a baby's coffin in your house? I'm like, well, I didn't go to the cemetery and dig it up. It was in an antique store, which probably some people wouldn't put that past me, but no, I have a fit about grave robbers and vandals in cemeteries. So no, I wouldn't have done anything like that ever. And had I thought that the person stole it out of a mausoleum, the actual person that we bought it from, I wouldn't have bought it from them, but we don't have any way of knowing. We bought it from a very reputable antique store that has a bunch of different, it's one of those kinds that you go in and there's booths and you can go to each one of the booths. And this guy has all kinds of weird things. And we bought the baby's coffin, brought it home, and my husband started ripping out the liner in it. It had one of those ugly 70s curtains, the kind with the big hooks that you could impale somebody with. It had those stapled into the coffin. And so my husband ripped it out, and he's like, dear, this coffin's been used. And I was like, what? He said, yeah, there was a baby in here at one time. He's like, look at how the hinges are rusted. He's like, that's body fluids. And he's like, and the handles, look where the handles were. The handles have been removed. So has the nameplate that was on the front of it. And I was like, well, there's nothing we can do about it, but I did an interview one night and people were having a fit thinking that I had just bought this poor little baby's coffin. I said, it's from the 1890s. If I could find the family that it belonged to, I'd give it back, even fixed up. Because my husband put beautiful green velvet in it and put a little pillow in there for me that he made. It's absolutely beautiful the way he did it. But at least I know with me, it's going to be safe and taken care of. It's not going to be abused like it would be probably if it was anyplace else. I'm not going to turn it into a table. I'm not going to burn candles inside it. It's sitting way up on a desk where the cats can't get to it. And it's going to be well taken care of.
Now, I heard you say that you have a son. Now, what does he think about all of this stuff?
Well, he's my stepson actually, but I've not raised him because he didn't live with us, but I did as much as I could to influence him growing up when we had him. He doesn't think anything about it. He's very pragmatic. He's just like, whatever. So I guess that much I have instilled in him. He doesn't really think much about it. When we first moved into the house, he didn't like his bedroom. He woke up in the middle of the night, Mom! Mom! And I ran in there and I was like, what? And he said, it's so dark. And I said, yeah, and the bedroom is a little creepy. I'm sorry.
Oh, does he bring friends over or anything? Do they think anything or anything else?
Yeah. He truly just does not seem to care. And in a way that's good because if he does go somewhere and he feels something, he'll be like me. He'll be like, oh, it's so freaky. He'll just be like, something creepy going on here. Move on.
I know we talked about this a little bit before, you said that if anything would be haunted as far as an item, it would probably be a coffin or a coffin like it. And we talked about that a little bit. But what do you think in general about items having the potential to be haunted or to be attached, or something attached to it?
I honestly have to say I don't believe that because, like you said, if anything should be haunted, it should be that coffin. I have bought sickles at yard sales. I have bought all kinds of creepy, weird things. I have bought jewelry. I have bought all kinds of things that should have come with something. Now, and I can't explain this, which is why this falls. Usually things with me are black or they are white. There is no in between. It's either there or it isn't. But I have encountered what I believe to be cursed items. And in my magazine, I've written a little thing about that coming up in the June issue. I have encountered cursed items. I have a gorgeous gray Victorian hat